WWE this past week launched their new seasons with their season premieres of varying quality, but regardless of how good the shows were, both Raw and SmackDown set up some very interesting stories to be played out over the next few months, with even some potential WrestleMania plans sprinkled in there too. It's a slightly fresh coat of paint onto what was an otherwise mostly same-it, albeit good quality, product. And going forward, there's some things I want to see WWE do as they move these new stories forward. Here's how I think WWE should book their new season to keep it feeling like a new season, and how they should book the next few months of TV and pay-per-views to make next year's WrestleMania season one of the most exciting yet. I'm Quinnell from WrestleTalk, and this is how I would fantasy book WWE's new seasons. If it's your first time here, consider subscribing to the channel and giving us a like. I'd appreciate it greatly. Thanks. Sami Zayn and Jey Uso. Seeing Kevin Owens selected as Jey Uso's SmackDown replacement was one that I and many others didn't exactly see coming, but that's not to say it wasn't totally necessary. Since WrestleMania, all KO and Sami have done is feud with the Judgment Day ad nauseum. Something had to give, and a split provides a breath of fresh air for both, and most importantly, it breaks them up without any surprise pop-up powerbombs on ring aprons. As evident on Raw, Sami clearly isn't taking this whole split thing entirely well, still wearing KO's shirt like an emotional ex-partner refusing to let things go. As well as this, he's also clearly holding some resentment towards Jey for being the cause of KO's switch. Despite them being dogs and all that, all of a sudden it's Sami who needs to come around to trusting Jey again. A lovely switcheroo after all those months of Jey having the trust issues in the Bloodline. Similarly to that peak Bloodline drama, this is already capturing the interest in its early stages, and has the narrative potential to be an angle to look forward to each and every Monday night. Build off Sami's conflictions, don't immediately pair them together every week, let this one breathe. Sami's great, Jey is great, just let them cook. Speaking of, the Bloodline. The return of Roman Reigns on the season premiere of SmackDown undeniably reinvigorated the entire show. Love him or hate him and his stat-padded undisputed WWE Universal title reign, you can't deny Roman's presence on WWE TV. As much as Jimmy Solo and mainly Paul can attempt to progress the Bloodline saga forward, there's only so much that can be done when Roman's only on the other end of Heyman's phone. But hey, now that Roman has returned to the head of the table, it's time to steer this ship around. Firstly, 2 thumbs up for the Cody tease on SmackDown, planting the seeds for their eventual rematch at Mania 40, so now all WWE needs to do is make some sense of Jimmy's, frankly, nonsensical story arc, which is easier said than done at this point. Regardless, as we all said last year, the final result should be Roman all alone with his bloodline abandoning him for good. While I'm not quite sure it can be built up in a more satisfying way than it was around Mania 39, or heck, even SummerSlam season, hopefully Triple H and co can stretch it out and tie a bow on this thing when we get to Philly in April. Drew McIntyre. As much potential as Sami and Jey's blossoming angle has to carry Raw into the new year, my personal reason for tuning into Raw lately has been to continue to witness the slow-burning heel turn of Drew McIntyre. Despite slipping further and further into heeldom as the weeks go on, Drew is still, by all accounts, a babyface. Not a great one, but a babyface nonetheless. Not yet earning enough bad karma through his deeds and continuing to toe that line. Thankfully for Drew, his career has been given a new lease of life by this current character change, which is especially timely as WWE needs to convince him to sign a new contract with the company before it reportedly runs out around sometime around Mania 40. And what better way than to convince Drew to stay than to let him end Seth Rollins' valiant run as World Heavyweight Champion. Seth needs to rest his back after all, and there is a ready-made title angle for Drew with Jey Uso afterwards. And just think we could have potentially all been eating a big helping of McRiddle right now instead. Cody Rhodes. While there certainly were fears that WWE had botched their biggest babyface since Daniel Bryan at WrestleMania 39, somehow he's still as over as ever. That means the adversity plan, aka feeding Cody to Brock for 4 months, worked a treat, and WWE's creative can give themselves a few pats on the back. Now, as mentioned, WWE have already planted those seeds for Cody vs. Roman 2 on SmackDown. The question is, how do you get him there? Well, despite the obvious answer being a Rumble win, personally, I feel like that's just not enough adversity, even if he entered from number 1. How about instead, WWE pull a bait and switch and have Cody almost win the Rumble, only to be screwed over by the Bloodline towards the end, leading to another star picking up the W and going on to challenge for the World Heavyweight Championship instead. This could then result in Cody maybe earning his shot in a Bloodline-infused Elimination Chamber number 1 contenders match with Jimmy Solo. Heck, Paul Heyman, why not throw him in there? Bottom line is, Cody, this time, actually finishes the story. Roman goes away for a bit. Bingo banger. But as for the Rumble winner, that honor should instead go to GUNTHER. Oh yes, the time is approaching. After shattering the Intercontinental title record, there truly is little else for GUNTHER to do but take that next step up the ladder, one-upping his record-breaking 2023 Rumble appearance by going that one step further in 2024. While the Ring General could just never drop his IC belt and walk out of Mania 40 as a champ, Ultimate Warrior style, instead let's finally have Chad Gable finish his own story and dethrone GUNTHER. This can happen at Survivor Series or heck, maybe even the Rumble event itself. Either way, have the Austrian shed his mid-card skin and confidently steamroll his way to a main event spot. He is quite simply the perfect wrestler, and could easily throw down with anyone at Mania for the World Heavyweight title. But hey, tying in with a previous entry, how about letting Drew and GUNTHER run it back in Philly? I know their SummerSlam match was a tad disappointing, but that was most certainly a fluke. Just see Mania 39's triple threat for proof. How about Seth? Someone GUNTHER hasn't crossed paths with since he was Walter that one time on Raw way back when. Whoever it is, Mania 40 must be GUNTHER's coronation after he wins the Rumble by eliminating Cody Rhodes. It's a mirror of last year where Cody last eliminated GUNTHER. Cody can enter at 1, GUNTHER can enter at 30. GUNTHER eliminates him. It's a perfect mirror of what happened last year. It would be so good. LA Knight. Yeah. As great as it is finally getting that long-promised LA Knight mega push, we all know that it has a ceiling. At least right now, anyway, as Roman ain't dropping his Uwu championship until Cody at Mania 40, and even that isn't a guarantee. So the logical step is for him to focus those reflective glasses of his on the US title instead. Compared to GUNTHER's work with the IC belt, the US title has unfortunately felt rather mid in 2023. While this is mostly to do with Austin Theory hogging it for an extremely boring run, even on Ray, it's just kinda there. Now by the time this comes out, we may have ourselves a match booked for Crown Jewel between Ray and Logan Paul for the title, and you know what? Paul should probably win that, actually. That'd be quite good. But he can lose it to LA Knight at some point afterwards. Knight versus Paul has already been teased before in the lead to Money in the Bank, and it was very entertaining, so why not? Knight would make the US title mean something, because I don't know if you've realized, but he's really, really over. If he's entering into a feud with Roman Reigns, that's great. He can face Roman Reigns, maybe at Crown Jewel or something, and he can lose, but then, to keep his momentum going, he wins the US title. Nick Aldis. Long overdue was Nick Aldis' WWE TV debut on the season premiere of SmackDown. Sporting a lovely SmackDown blue suit, roasting Dom, signing up KO, it was a solid start for his life as a GM. As much as it's been played out over the years in WWE, it's nice to have some proper distinct authority figures for each brand. And even better, it's nice that, so far anyway, they're seemingly all business, no overt heelish tactics and abuse of power. Aldis and Pierce look set to do it all in the spirit of healthy competition. But that's not to say that Aldis can't eventually get into a bit of trouble while attempting to assert his authority over his new roster. In what could be a nice, harmless Mania feud, how about Aldis find someone like a Grayson Waller type to be a persistent thorn in his side throughout the early months of his tenure? The role is easy to envision Waller in, he did similar with HBK and NXT, and it would allow both he and Aldis to show off their respective charisma. Aldis can win, get a nice big Mania pop, and proceed into a full in-ring career, or just go back to being a GM afterwards, and it would just be a nice little moment. Jade Cargill. A few Sunday lists ago, we drafted up many ways WWE could debut Jade Cargill, ranging from her destroying Nia Jax, winning the Royal Rumble, hell, even merging the women's tag titles into a mid-card belt. And while any of those things would have made a splash for Jade, it's hard to argue that WWE hasn't done a pretty great job already with the former TBS champion, all without doing anything remotely crazy. Instead, they've simply shown her off in almost every opportunity, teasing what her first move will in fact be. As much as we all love a tease, we all have our limits, and WWE must pull the trigger and have Jade make her mind up very soon, otherwise the luster may wear off a little. While somewhere like Survivor Series would probably be ideal, a case could be made for the Rumble, as it would of course be the event to make the biggest immediate statement. A debut Rumble win would of course be history-making, but I feel WWE need to do it a bit sooner. Not to say that she won't still win the thing, but no harm in her laying waste to some fools beforehand, is there? Becky Lynch. One star who could one day cross paths with Jade is the man, Becky Lynch. Now before I go on, it's worth saying that I love Becky's NXT Women's title run. It's allowing underappreciated talent like Tegan Nox and Xia Li to get on TV, and it's of course doing wonders for the Gold brand's ratings. However, it's safe to say that it's also cooled arguably the top name on the women's roster off a fair bit. Lynch has been away from the main women's title scene for a long time now, and the time is right. for a reintroduction, especially when you have a bona fide mega match between Lynch and current Women's World Champion Rhea Ripley just staring us all in the face. Due to Lynch's lengthy feud with Trish and the current spell as NXT champ, she's yet to cross paths properly with the Eradicator. So obviously, despite the Rumble perhaps being Jade's to lose, WWE could instead pivot and give Lynch the win, becoming the first ever two-time Women's Rumble winner and setting up a date with Ripley on the year anniversary of her title reign beginning. The Judgment Day. Speaking of Ripley, despite some tension brewing in the summer, the Judgment Day seems to be at the peak of their powers once more, all holding gold once again by the end of this week's Raw. While they are a tad overbearing at points, interrupting promos left, right, and center, they have massively overachieved since debuting a year and a half ago. Yet I think it's time the group took that next step. They claim they run all of WWE, but do they really? One way to assert this statement is for Senor Money in the Bank himself, Damian Priest, to finally cash in his lovely purple case, something that realistically should come at the expense of the very hurt Seth Rollins. This could maybe come mid-match at Crown Jewel, delaying McIntyre's big win while also keeping him strong. As mentioned, the JD can get a bit much at times, that's why the dynamic needs to be changing. Keep us fans on our toes and deliver compelling plotlines that don't just equate to endless trios matches every Monday night. Also, maybe finally get JD McDonough involved properly, the poor guy. And that's our list. How would you book WWE's new season going forward? How would you make next year's WrestleMania season the most exciting it's been in ages? Let me know in the comments, and while you're here, why not subscribe to the channel, like the video, and check out one of our other Sunday lists. Here's a clip. And while we saw her improve her in-ring style over the course of her run, it's clear there's still plenty of room for Cargill to go, with her superstar presence able to carry her to even greater heights. So, with that said, what are they going to do once Cargill hops aboard? Let's find out. I'm Quinnell from WrestleTalk, and here are 10 fantasy booking pitches for Jade Cargill's WWE debut.